Poll question for the final hour is going to be what? We will hear from Seth Greenberg, ESPN college basketball analyst. He will join us coming up.
Dan, we put up there 5 years from now, last night drafts will be seen as stacked or weak. Right now, 73% of the audience say weak.
Okay. Well, it feels like our expectation level with the draft is greatly reduced. Somebody could average 11 points, and we're going, he's a lottery pick. And then you'll go, okay, well, he's young, and then we'll see what he develops into. There's no, numbers, gaudy numbers like there used to be in college basketball. It's basically get in and get out. Play 1 year, and then you're done. But for the most part, we're introduced. It used to be March Madness. You got introduced to college basketball players, at least on a national level. Now it's the draft where you go, oh, these guys have been playing in the G League. Now, I would have thought if you get drafted, then you go to the G League if you don't make the NBA team. Now you can graduate, go to the G League, and then get drafted. So
it feels like there's a step out of order there or something.
Yeah. Like your gap year, you're going to get drafted, and then you'll go to the NBA. Who pays for Ignite? Like, where's their money come from? How much do those players make who play in the G League, who come out of high school? Because other players are in the G League that they tried to make it in the NBA, they didn't, and then they get sent down. Yes, Paulie?
There are 30 teams in the NBA's G League, 28 of which are affiliated with NBA teams. 2 are not, and that's one of those that is kind of unaffiliated. I don't know who owns it or pays for it.
But do they pay better with Ignite than they do some of these other teams?
The NBA G League Ignite is a team of NBA draft prospects. Let me see this. In conjunction with the G League, coached by Jason Hart, the team is dedicated to developing young players. It's a purely developmental team, less about competition.
Okay. All right, 877-3DP Show. Get to more phone calls coming up. I think people have the expectation that Victor Wembanyama is going to be a 2010 guy, which, okay. I'm curious what the team expectations are going to be. Like, what is Popovich expectations going to be? We can have ours, but does he look at this and say he's going to bring about 10 more wins this year, which would put us up to 32? They're not a playoff team. It certainly doesn't feel like that right now. I think Scoot Henderson going to Portland makes me think even more so that Dame will play someplace else. I don't know how Scoot Henderson helps Dame Lillard. If the goal was to make the playoffs, Scoot Henderson's a nice player. He's not a good shooter right now. But, Dame has to look at, I'm on the clock here, man. Like, how many more years do I have? 3 years at a really high level? I'm not going to win anything or play in, big games. At least it doesn't appear that way. And then Golden State, they got Chris Paul. I think if they're going to have him come off the bench, I think it's great. You don't have to have everybody play the same way on the same team. There's nothing wrong. Like Sean Livingston, when he played at Golden State, he didn't shoot threes, but he did other things for you. And I think having Chris Paul there to help that second unit, it's either going to work great or it's going to be a disaster, it feels like. But they wanted him. They got rid of Jordan Poole. I think they'll bring Draymond Green back. You get everybody together one more time, and maybe Chris Paul gets a championship. All right, so we have poll question for the final hour. We'll talk to Seth Greenberg from the Mothership. He'll join us coming up as well. I don't think there are other surprises there other than you're probably watching going, who is that? Oh, he played there? I don't remember that. Yes, Eaton.
One of the things that got some attention, too, is that I don't remember, I should have looked before I said it, but how many college players went in the top 10 as opposed to either foreign players or G League players?
Let's see.
There was only a couple that actually went to college.
I'm going to guess 3.
That feels like a big swing.
Yeah, that's about right. You got Brandon Miller from Alabama went 2, Anthony Black from Arkansas 6, Jarace Walker from Houston 8, Taylor Hendricks from University of Central Florida 9, and 10, Cason Wallace of Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
So it's like
50-50 maybe.
Yeah, it's 50-50.
But certainly the top 5 picks, that feels like a changing trend.
I think it's already changed.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, I think that's the trend. It's going to be maybe 50-50. Plus, the decorated player in college basketball is not the guy who's going to get drafted, because you have some guys who are really good college basketball players, but their game doesn't, like Drew Timme. He's playing against good players in college, but his game doesn't translate. Like Frank Kaminsky. I would have thought he would have been a little bit better because he could shoot, but it didn't take long for you to realize either that guy can play or that guy can't play. Yeah, Pauline.
And a lot of the guys, the college guys that were drafted, weren't necessarily the highest scoring or best player on their team.
Yeah.
It was the 18 or 19-year-old who had upside. It's like Derek Lively, the player for Duke. He was injured the whole season, but people remember of him in high school. He was a superstar, 7 foot, could play outside.
And he'll be a great defender for Dallas. He can fit in with the Dallas Mavericks. Also, when you think of Kentucky, normally their guards are the ones who star in the NBA. They've had a lot of success, except for the Harrison twins. For the most part, when you think of Kentucky basketball players who are really successful, it's the backcourt.